So we're talking that science has a culture, and that culture can be changed. Especially things like scientists, which are so good at education and organizing, people so conscientious, caring about society, caring about truth-telling, caring about sharing what they know with others, all these values we have inside science. It's a huge resource. We can change our culture. So, I want to give you a taste of some language, just the power of language, which has been very, very powerful in my lab and for other people too. And this has to do, so I'm going to talk about a word. It's just a word to describe something that goes on in science. It's very powerful. And this has to do with the schema of research. So we come to do research, and human beings, when they come to do something, have a mental schema, an image of what it'll be like. And if things don't go like what it's supposed to be like, you experience cognitive dissonance, this extra stress. That's the way we are, we're human beings. So here's the schema of how research is done, that we learn in textbooks and in papers. This is the question, this is the answer, and this is research. Now, if something goes wrong, for example, the experiment doesn't work, the machine gets broken, the student loses motivation, that doesn't fit the schema, and we experience something's wrong with me, or something's wrong with science. Let's think about a different second schema that we can adopt or teach. It's a little bit more realistic, like what research is like. This is the question, this is the answer. You start doing research. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. Till you reach a place where your initial assumptions break down. It's like having the ground shake beneath your feet. Nothing works. And you enter a phase linked with negative emotions, and the word that we call this is the cloud. And you're sitting there for an undetermined amount of time. If you have the right support, you can notice in the material at hand a new answer to the question. And then if you choose, maybe it's more interesting. Usually it's more interesting. You go there, the experiments don't work, and then you publish a paper A, arrow C, which is fine because papers are for communicating. It's a very good way to communicate, as long as we don't forget the process of doing research is different. Now, why is there a cloud? The cloud stands at the boundary between the known and the unknown. Whenever we do research, if we're going to discover something new, we have to go from the known to the unknown. Notice that I put P here in the known, because we knew the difference. And that means if we're going to discover something new, that something has to change about our basic assumptions, which is an unpleasant feeling. So built into our profession is something quite profound. We go to the unknown every day. And it's built into our profession to have this cloud. Now, I first encountered the cloud when I was a graduate student. And again, very determined, very ambitious, etc. And I was doing a calculation, and it didn't work, and I got stuck. And I understood that something's wrong with me. I'm not fit to be a scientist. I'm not good enough to step into the gates of the campus of this university. But I had supports from friends, family, etc. And I could get to the end of the research project. And then my second project, it happened again. And then I said, there's like a pattern, right? And I talked with other graduate students, and like, it's quite, a lot of people know what I'm talking about. And now when I mentor students, I just found this word cloud. So I describe to them, this is what research is going to be like. The fact that you know that you're in the cloud, you can tell me I'm in the cloud, it doesn't make you feel better. You still face all these negative emotions, but at least you know that it's not you, it's our profession, it's something we do. And so that diffuses a little bit of the toxin, and it also helps me as a mentor kind of remember that you need support. So why is it so important to support? So the emotions, you might say, are fluffy or maybe not relevant, but actually they're very relevant, because research in cognitive psychology shows that if you try to solve a puzzle that needs creativity, if you're suffering fear and stress, your performance goes way down because your mind doesn't explore risky paths. But if you have emotions of solidarity and support, you can take risks. And so to get out of here, you need support. You don't need to suffer to be a good scientist, is what I'm trying to say. Unlike another myth that we have in our culture. So this cloud has been transformational for my lab. Just that concept, that word. I'm just wondering, it's very quiet, so does anybody want to say something? Or ask, yeah?
So I have a question about the perception of the relative size between what's known and what's unknown. So I think as my experience, and I think of other people from my lab, is that as you begin to learn more, you realize that there's more and more that's not known. And there's negative emotions associated with that, which is, I'm stupid because I seem to know relatively less than I used to know. So has that been your experience as well, and what do you say to people going through that sort of phase?
So I'll just repeat what you said so everyone can hear. Just tell me if I got it. As you learn more and more in science, you realize how little you know. And you could say, every day I know less and less. And that can also trigger negative emotions. Right? And you ask me if I felt the same way. I must have when I was starting. I don't remember it anymore. Now I'm so used to this that I welcome this cloud because I know that we're onto something. So I think you can get to the state where you actually you're okay with it. So. But it's very personal. So did I answer?
Yeah.
But I certainly, as I say, of course, I'm sharing with you that the positive and the negative emotions that I went through, they still go through in science. It's a whole range, because science is an extremely emotional field. And it's a field where you deal with people all the time. You can't do it without people. You can't be a scientist in isolation, actually. So, and realizing, for example, that we're a community all together facing this unknown. And we actually collectively, in this conference, trying to build a story together about what cell networks are like. Every person brings to this their own unique interests. So if you follow your inner voice, you ask the question that you would ask and not somebody else. And that's the way we progress, by our uniqueness. And when you think of it like that you're not alone, actually, it's together. We're all faced with this unknown. Maybe it makes it a little easier to.
You said that you get into this cloud, but there's obviously different that path can stop before the cloud, right? You can, like you said, the student can lose energy right, and so they can tell you if they're in a cloud, but really they just don't care. Right?
So let's talk about motivation. Actually, I'm glad that you asked. What happens if you stop before the cloud? The student might not care. So I'd like to just offer one more concept for you, students and PIs, relevant for everyone. About motivation. What's known in psychology about motivation? And I'm going to start it off by doing a little, something very, very fun that I'd like to invite you to do. You don't have to, but if you do, I guarantee it will be a highlight for you in this meeting. And that's the following. I'd like you to think about a day, a particular day in science. Also, I'd like you to think about a day in science where everything was right. It was a highlight of your experience in science so far. It was a moment, a day where you were happy to come to work. You felt that you were born to do this or something like that. It was the best moment. So think about, I invite you to think about who was there with you? What was the room like? Or maybe it was outside. Who were the people there? What it felt like? What were you saying? What it felt like for you? Okay? And now I'd like you to invite you, don't have to again, to turn to somebody sitting next to you or behind you and tell them, we'll take like a minute each, tell them about that moment, not telling them necessarily the science of it, you know, but telling them who was there and what you think made it so incredible or so special. What was it that made it so special? And then we'll use that to understand motivations again. So please, go ahead and I'll clap my hands in 2 minutes.
Yeah.